We are live now.
Um, okay, is everyone can hear me, right? Okay. So today we've gathered here for the webinar on and the topic of this of today we independent thought and blacksmiths and my name is Akanksha and I have done my master's in environmental studies and resource management from Terry School of Advanced Studies. And I would be introducing the panels now. So our guest of honor today is Mr. Uday Shankar. He has done a research project on Ganga River Basin Management Plan funded by the Ministry of Environment and Forest. And he is also an associate professor at the Rajiv Gandhi School of Intellectual Property Rights in the IIT Kharagpur. He has a research experience of about 15 years and he's participated in law, teaching, and legal research program at the Cardiff University. Uh, the next panelist we have is Miss Soham Pitlangia. She is known to be quite soul with an she's an avid environmentalist and would be appearing for her class 12 boards. And she is from Nigeria and from the Indian language school. And she wants to become an environmental engineer and is also a member of Greta Thunberg's Fridays Future initiative. The next panelist is Miss Aparajita Akhori, and she's a class 9th student, also an environmental enthusiast from the Notre Dame Academy, Patna, Bihar. And and we have with us today the founder of independent thought that works on child rights laws, Mr. Vikram Srivastava. And we have Ms. Pramila Sharma, who is the program director for the Blacksmith Institute Foundation, India, and has also completed a master's degree in environmental sciences. And so we would start with the discussion today, starting from over to you, Ms. Pramila Sharma. Please go ahead. Over to you, Ms. Pramila Sharma. Please,
Thank you. Thank you. Right.
Over to you, Ms. Pramila Sharma. Over to you, Ms. Pramila Sharma.
Thank you. I'm going to reintroduce myself because I was hearing a lot of echo in my head.
Over to you, Ms. Pramila Sharma. Over to you, Ms. Pramila Sharma. Over to you, Ms. Pramila Sharma.
I think YouTube has also been activated somewhere.
Hello. I think it's better now. The storm is settled, it seems. All right. Okay. So my name is Pramila. Thanks, Akanksha, for introducing me. I'm associated with Blacksmith Institute Foundation as the program director. And in conformation with our parent organization, Pure Earth, an international not-for-profit organization, we are working mainly to reduce pollution, save lives, protect the planet Earth, and we are working mostly in the low and mid-income countries, trying to reduce the exposure from point source industrial pollution problems, which are impacting the lives of children and women, because children and women are the most vulnerable groups in any community. I'm glad to be here today to mark the 51st World Earth Day today, together with Independent Thought team. At the beginning, let me give you a little background about why we are celebrating Earth Day today. So the Earth Day was celebrated first time in 1970 in America, and since then it has become a norm. Um, and It's actually a day to basically mark and take a resolve, like the earth belongs to everybody, and there are host of issues which are impacting the mother earth, and the reasons why we need to take stock and protect it. Several environmental issues which are actually impacting the Mother Earth, and broadly that talks includes air and water pollution, the global warming issue, smoke, acid rain, deforestation. Wildfires are just a few examples of environmental issues that we are facing right now. I know amidst the current pandemic of COVID, the environmental issue so far looks so minuscule to us, but yes, that's still a big problem, and it becomes all the more important now to sit back and think about these. Um of many issues, environmental issues, which is very broadly. I'm going to talk about just one small issue which Blacksmith Institute as well as Pure Earth has picked up, because that's something which is very vital, which is under recognized, but it is severely impacting, particularly the children. And we are going to talk about how children are not just getting impacted, how much they know about it, what are their general rights in order to to be a part of solving those issues. And the background to that is primarily a recent analysis and research report published jointly by UNICEF and Pure Earth. The report is called The Toxic Truth. It's talk about the children's exposure to the lead pollution among other pollution sources, which is undermining the generation of future potential. It is because lead is a known neurotoxin, and it has been estimated that world over about 800 million, which is equivalent to 80 crore children, have blood lead levels above 5 microgram per deciliter, which is a value which WHO considers for recommend for intervention. Uh, Lead exposure, it can happen from many sources, and the most common are breathing in dust or fumes that contains lead, and by consuming, contaminated water and food. The exposure to lead is intensified if it is in informal or unregulated electronic waste recycling or lead acid battery recycling facility. Um, so why the children are of most concern to it, because the children they have their mass body, they consume more air, they drink more water than their body mass, and hence they are more exposed to the lead in their body. um, Pure Earth Blacksmith Institute, of course, has joined hands with the UNICEF and Clarius Foundation, and they have initiated an initiative called Protecting Every Child's Potential. This was done last year in 2020, and I think that platform is something which calls for a collaborative action by international as well as national authorities. And this the objective is primarily to mobilize a larger global response, and in smaller hubs like this, initiating dialogue about how the children health could be protected, how their health can be incorporated as an important aspect of their right to good health and well-being. So this is about my little bit about this.
Thank you so much, Pramila, and thanks for giving an overview uh, to the whole program. And I think Akansha is having some trouble with the technology. That's another aspect of the Earth Day today. We are moving, I think, too quickly with technology and uh, both enjoying and suffering. So, as the schedule was expected to move, so our first speaker for today is Aprajita, and Aprajita is a very bright student. She studies in class 9 in Notre Dame Academy, Patna. And Aprajita, you have around 10 minutes to speak. And what we expect from you is please feel free, share your views, be very open to what you want to share. And everyone wants to listen children's perspective as to how you all see the earth going around, uh, any suggestions you have for the adults, the older generations. ठीक है, तो over to you, Aprajita.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. My name is Aparajita Khori, and I study in Notre Dame Academy, Patna, Bihar. Well, today on the occasion of Earth Day, I would like to put forward my views on the various environmental changes which are taking place and its harmful consequences, especially in children these days. Friends, today is Earth Day, an annual event celebrated on April 22nd. Worldwide, various events are held to demonstrate support for environmental protection. First celebrated in 1970, Earth Day now includes events in more than 193 countries, which are now coordinated globally by the Earth Day Network. I personally, with a concern, feel about the changing complexion of the environment. The major environmental issues are now not only limited to elders, but is indirectly or directly affecting formative years of young children. Time sensitive is the greatest concern. An aberration from normal, if it comes and goes, then one adapts quickly. But if it persists, it has different sets of repercussions. Take COVID, for instance. Our children and their right to breathe with no checks, not their basic requirement. 18 months and phases surprise us with imponderables of uncertainty. Parents do get overtly concerned because of their child's predicaments and that imbalances domestic harmony. Government must focus on this. Environment is suffering at the hands of modernization. It's open fact, concretization, tree burning, not enough waste repository, aquatic losses, waste in underground water, sewage issues, unplanned sewage plants, particularly in Patna, river pollution, waste disposal failure are all related aspects which require better intervention. Environmental hazards can easily disrupt children's rapid growth and development. They include bacteria and parasites, neurotoxicants, air pollutants, volatile organic compounds, and natural toxins, in addition to physical hazards to which children may be exposed in the home, in the playground, at school, and in the wider environment. Young children are also exposed to toxicants in food, air, water, and soil. They ingest more food and water, breathe more air in relation to body weight than adults do, engage in frequent hand to mouth behaviors, and live and play close to the ground where contaminants may be present. They are more vulnerable to toxicants' effect because their immature metabolic pathways are less able to metabolize, detoxify, and excrete harmful. There are relatively low-cost ways to reduce environmental exposures and environmentally related diseases. Many interventions can generate substantial benefits with relatively little investment. These inventions can often be complementary to existing outreach programs. I feel if small issues are sorted and addressed with care, bigger issues will automatically find place for resolution and gifting a child with a better present and a smiling tomorrow. I rest my points here. Thank you very much.
That was a very, very good speech, especially coming from someone who is in ninth standard. It was very great to have this. I think we, as environmentalists present here, we really do believe in these aspects, and they are very, very important to note. And I'd like to move with on with our next panelist, which is also a student, and she is in. I have already discussed about how we have these budding and nice avid environmentalists here. So over to you, Ms. Soham. Chit Langia. Yes, please go ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name is Soham. As Kansha already introduced me, that was a wonderful introduction. We all know the environment is suffering, but how long till the earth says, okay, this is it, it's enough? When is the deadline? 2030. Yeah, that's only 9 years. That is when the earth says it's over now. Basically, if you know about climate change or global warming, our temperature is rising by zero point 0.1 or zero point 0.05 degrees Celsius. But by 2030, that would be 1.5 degrees Celsius. And that is when the worst impacts of climate change will hit us all. And a positive affirmation for all of us might be that we have the resources and technology to do this. And many countries are moving forward with this, but this will require a huge change in all the aspects of society. As Aparajita said, small changes, big changes, everything matters at this point. Now, how do we reach there? Well, it's simple. We analyze our carbon footprints. This is a small activity me and my friends do whenever we're trying to go somewhere or even shopping. We check the carbon footprints of certain items. It's just a way to be aware. Carbon footprints are basically carbon emissions that each and every activity have, which involve technology or fuel. This includes driving your car or even a simple Google search. Now, I'm not saying that you should stop using Google, but you can be aware of your actions and your activities. And how do we limit this? Well, great brands like H&M and Levi's and Myntra, if you've done online shopping, they have a huge collection of sustainable clothing. So if it's possible for you, I would encourage doing that. Now, coming to the climate crisis. Like every other crisis in this world, unfortunately, it's unequally distributed and the burden is shared unequally. Underprivileged communities have a greater chance and are at a higher risk uh, towards this crisis. So, for example, if we take climate change problems like droughts or cyclones or floods, we might suffer from them and we might have loss of property and infrastructure. But these people lose everything that they have, every little thing that they have. So imagine a child going to school, a underprivileged child going to school. After a cyclone or flood hits them, they don't have the right to do that. They are unfortunately stopped from doing that. So a climate crisis is a child's right crisis, not only the right to live, but also the right to education, right to health, and right to good quality of air also. Now, when we talk about the direct impact of climate, a study shows that almost 90% of the people that are affected by climate borne diseases are children under the age of 5. And even children in underprivileged families are the ones that are most affected by this. It's actually quite sad if you know think about it. And as a person living outside India and in a low income country that is mainly dependent on petroleum, that is Nigeria, our main source of income is petroleum. So how does a country like that try to move towards an environmentally friendly direction? Nigeria has taken several initiatives to support its other sectors like agriculture, entrepreneurship. And while we're not quite there, we're moving towards it. And every time I come to India, it's actually quite nice. I remember coming back in 2015 or 2016, garbage would be thrown everywhere. There would be, heaps of garbage lying on the ground. But now coming back home and having an alarm at 8 o'clock every morning singing Gadi Wala Aaya Kachra Nikal, is absolutely amazing because I can see that people are actually moving towards it. Now, while waste disposal is okay and everyone's taking a good initiative towards it, we also need to focus and encourage our government and capitalists to ensure that they treat the waste properly. Yeah, I'm a secure I'm a well aware citizen, and I'm separating my trash. Maybe I'm separating recyclable and non-recyclable, but what if the government just dumps it all in the place and it's left there? We need to hold them accountable while still doing our part. So that's my part, and thank you.
Very well, Soham. That was a brilliant talk, and I really agree with you in many aspects of this as well. And especially talking about the how the revolution in this has changed, how things have actually grown. But with this, I think we do end up not but we see that how traditional has kind of changed with the growing of how it's grown now. Wait, my network. Okay, yeah. And now we move ahead with Dr. Uday Shankar. I've already introduced him as a panelist. He is the guest of honor today. And over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Akanksha, for introducing me, and uh, I congratulate Independent Thought, which is very ably led by Mr. Bikram Srivastava, and in organizing this program on the very apt day.
Professor
Uh,
Uday, there's some issue with the volume. Uh, Some
is it coming uh, in break form, or is the intensity of
the intensity is less, the volume is less.
okay, I'll speak louder.
Yeah.
So I thank Akanksha for giving a generous introduction, and I congratulate Independent Thought uh, and Mr. Bikram Srivastava for organizing this event today, which is very apt and very occasional, uh, for very reason that we need to deliberate and engage on these issues, because the deliberation and the engagement do not only send the reminder to the policymakers, but it also acts as you know awakening oneself. Now, on the issue of child rights and the environment, I try to look at it from three important documents. One is obviously the Indian Constitution. Second is 1992, the Rio de Janeiro declaration, and the very recent one, which talks about rights of children and the environment and the obligation of the states, which has been accepted by the Human Rights Council in the year 2018. Before I move and connect with these three important documents and try to develop a narrative that what is needed to be done, as the first speaker very rightly highlighted, that when it comes to environmental harms, no denial that children are the one who are facing the brunt of the same. In fact, the statistic says that around 1.5 million deaths of children under the age of 5 takes place every year because of air pollution, water pollution, and exposure to toxic substances. And apart from these casualties, there are many more cases of the children suffering from diseases, becoming disabled, and the climate change and the loss of diversity is adding to this crisis. Now, in this perspective, when I look at the very significance of three documents and why I am referring to these documents, in order to understand that where child and the child rights are being placed, are they getting any representation? Who are representing them? What is the process to consider them in decision making activities? Now, when I look at the Constitution of India, I find the reference of Article 21 and the preamble, which no doubt, in a very clear terms, speak about the rights. So, as far as the acknowledgement of the right is concerned, it is duly scripted under the Indian Constitution. Now, the question comes in that who shall invoke it? Does the children, do they have a right to invoke the rights? Does the child get the necessary institutional support to invoke the rights? Now, in this regard, when I look at 48 capital A, which imposes a sort of duty on the state. Now, in that regard, shall we also look the state as the representative of the child? So, state, if seen as a representative, then state needs to look at the participation. State needs to look at the concern, not only as a maker of law, but also the implementer of the law. And then the reference of the duty laid down in part 4A of the Constitution. And the wide range of judicial interventions done whereby the court has introduced almost every principle of international environmental law as a part of domestic legal regime. 1992 is another landmark. The reason being the very acceptance of the fact that the next generation has a right in the environmental matters. Intergenerational equity has got acceptance through 1992 declaration. And this, to me, appears to be a sort of watershed moment. Why watershed? Because this 1992 declaration has truly accepted and acknowledged the voice of not only the child but also the future generation. And we know very well that much of the environmental law jurisprudence developed on the bedrock of 1992 declaration. And in fact, there is a reference of child rights and the environment under the Convention on the Rights of the Child. Particularly when I look at Article 24 and 29 of the Convention. 24 links the child rights to the highest attainable standard of health, including the right to nutritious food and safe drinking water, to issues of environmental pollution. And the other one defines the child rights to information on environmental health issues and defines environmental education as one of the goals of education. Now, with this reference of considering the concern of the child on the environmental issues, why we have failed to give a very effective response to the children today. In fact, the question which was raised by two of the participants, somehow this has been attempted to be addressed in this report of the Human Rights Council of the year 2018. Because it is well known fact that they do have a right, but then the question comes in, what shall be the operational mechanism to protect the same? And in that, many times it happens so that the distinction between human rights and the environment plays this spoil sport. Because the moment we try to delink this, then we get trapped into the complete narrative of economic growth and development. And that's how we start addressing the issue of the environment. The right-based approach of environment helps us in understanding even the developmental concern, keeping the human being at the core of the developmental activities. And in order to strengthen the same, this 2018 report suggests a way out. It says that the educational program must be designed in such a manner so that the understanding of the child on environmental issues increases. And with the increase in the understanding, their capacity to respond to the environmental challenges should also get strengthened. And that's what I was referring to as a participation. We need to ensure the participation of the child. 2018 report also says that we need to assess that how the rights of the child is getting affected when certain measures are being taken. And then the most important one is right to information. That there's a need to collect the information about sources of environmental harm to children and then make that information public. And participation of children in environmental decision making processes is very important. So what shall be the form of agency to represent them is to be worked out in such a manner so that there shall be a true representation of their concern. And then it says that there is a need to remove all kind of barriers that children faces to access justice for environmental harm. Very progressive approach. And I truly believe that this 2018 report of the Human Rights Council will not only drive the government to consider the right to clean environment as the main narrative, but it will also help them in creating a necessary ambience, environment, ecosystem for their effective participation. To conclude, I would like to say that there is a need to stress on reading the human rights and environment in an integrated manner and to look at the issue of children as a core concern, not as a peripheral aspect. Thank you, Vikram, for inviting me And I congratulate Soham and Aprajita for sharing your thoughts with all of us. I truly believe that your thought will be an awakening call for each one of us in order to ensure that your concern becomes mainstream point of debate and engagement. Thank you.
So uh, we are so fortunate that Dr. Enchin Chopal, who was listening to the debate, I requested, and he has he's humble like anytime he just when he sees children he just jumps to those platforms. So I took this opportunity and invited him live, and you all will be very glad to know. So Dr. Rinchen Chopal is presently the UNCRC committee member, and he looks after the child rights aspect from the global lens, and he's also representing Asia and Southeast Asia. So he's a voice for children in the UN committee. He's from Bhutan, and he also heads a group called Sahewak, which is the forum for all the SARC countries. So there, we are all glad to have you, Dr. Enchin, and your comments I was flashing, and I'm so happy that you agreed and immediately joined. So Soham and Aprajita, you are sharing the screen with somebody you will cherish for your life. Over to you, Dr. Inchan. I'll request you to share your views, please, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Vikram. Am I audible?
I'm fine. Perfect, sir.
Yes, sir. And while it is always an honor to share the platform with children, and I think today it's my privilege to also listen to Aparajita and Soham, and you are very valuable, insightful, and also, very thought-provoking comments on the environment and how it if impacts on children, and not just children but our very existence as a race. It's always a privilege also to listen to Professor Uday. Always happy that he is so actively engaged in moving this agenda forward. And independent and my close friend Vikram, and of course the Blacksmith Institute. Now, as a member of the UNCRC committee, and even before that, as the Director General of SIVOG, which is the South Asia Initiative to End Violence Against Children, my whole life's focus has been to try and eliminate violence against children. And I work very closely with the 8 governments of South Asia, and I also have very close contact with children's networks and civil society networks working on violence against children in all the Asian countries, more so, of course, in the 8 SAARC countries. And as Vikram knows, I'm fondly called Grandpa Rinchen by children of Asia and the Pacific, and I take a lot of pride in being called that. Now, on the subject matter, as all the previous speakers clearly stated, today is a very big day for all of us. But more so because the discourse is now beginning to means by actually focusing on the role of children and how children can actually meaningfully drive this movement forward, this discourse forward. And as a member of the UNCRC committee, I also like to inform the discourse here that we have constituted a working group on children and the environment, and I'm a member of that working group. We had our first working group meeting on the 16th of this month, and we have scheduled our next working group meeting tomorrow, 23rd. And the aspiration is that as we continue this discourse, we are actually going to encourage more and more active participation of children and listening to children, and ensuring that this work of the committee on children and the environment and ultimately hoping that we will be able to either generate a general comment on children and the environment from the committee, which will have a authoritative impact on the discourse globally, or even to that matter, we are even thinking loud that we could consider an optional protocol on children and the environment for the convention on the rights of the child. So this type of discourses by various like-minded and committed organizations bring such wonderful discussions on the table, that much more exciting as well as peaceful. So I'm so happy that I was invited to join in. And as Vikram said, I am actually, looking for an opportunity to listen to children immaterial on what topic, and this one is actually very, very relevant. So I want to thank you all for whatever information you have shared. I will definitely report it to the working group tomorrow, that this was organized and that these were the issues that were raised by these organizations. I strongly endorse the sentiments Professor Uday made in terms of ensuring that at the end of the day, I think if we cannot, change the, discourse of the whole environmental, movement in globally by centering it around children's rights and their future, which ultimately determines the future of the human race anyway. So then I think we'll always be looking at other dimensions of, capitalistic and other, short-term gains, rather than looking at a more sustainable, long-term strategic intervention. So I'm also proud to be in Bhutan now. I'm a Bhutanese national. As you all know, Bhutan is one country which has managed to make itself carbon negative, is the only country in the world that is carbon negative. By constitutional guarantee, Bhutan must have at least 60% of the country under forest cover. Currently, we have close to 72% of natural forest. And therefore, you see, we have, and every government or private or business economic projects must first have an environmental assessment undertaken, whether it is hydropower projects or even small projects like setting up a bakery must actually go through our environment assessment. So therefore, there are a lot of things that Bhutan is doing, showcasing itself in the small dot in the Himalayan countries between China and India. But the reality is that just because you're carbon negative, just because you have 72% natural forest, major part of the country as wildlife corridors, nature parks, does not protect you from the impact of what is happening globally. Every time the planes hit up, the pollutants rise up and we get engulfed. So we have flights being missed, everything happens. So therefore, it is actually everybody's problem. And I think, as the children also very eloquently said, it has to be a common agenda for all of us if we have to make it a win-win situation. So I salute the organizers, and I also am very grateful to all the speakers. Thank you very much, and I'll do my part in taking a message to the committee and reporting about what you all actually discussed today, and it will be my privilege. And once again, thank you to the two children for raising your voices so well. I hope I'll be able to keep in touch with you all in the coming days. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Enchen. And I don't think there can be a better outcome than this, that the voices are being heard directly to the UN. And and uh, I was expected to give the closing remarks, but I don't want to spoil the tempo and speak after you. And so it's so nice to everyone. And Akansha, thank you for anchoring. And
Yes,
when
thank
I
you,
see,
Akansha.
when I see environment, Dr. Inchin, I was having a discussion with a childhood friend yesterday. He is now based in Mumbai. I am based in Delhi. When we were in Patna, we were staying in a small compound which used to have 26 flats in that apartment, and most of our childhood memories are within that campus, how we played and how we spent our time. So we were just sharing that, imagine at that time if there were 26 cars parked in that same campus, how would our childhood have been? And we just realized that it would have been almost zero. We would have no memories because we would have then been not allowed to play in anything. So when I see environment, I see children need to reclaim the public spaces. So that's the message I want you to carry
Yes, yes,
tomorrow.
yes, yes,
That
yes,
how the encroachment which has happened in public spaces, and how the happy part of the childhood has been taken away from children. So that's my one request. You must put it before
yes.
the UN committee.
Yeah.
And thank you so much,
And
Dr.
before you end, I thought I'll give you a little, window in terms of Bhutan's environment. So you see, we live actually literally, in the forest. In fact, we have a joke in Bhutan which says, it is you could get away by killing a man, you can't get away by cutting down a tree. And we use
Okay.
that as a philosophy to continue as, every citizen's responsibility to preserve our natural forest and environment. But as I said, it is a very, very challenging, task as we move forward. But I'll definitely take your voice. And children need their public spaces. They need to breathe clean air. They need to be able to, keep their roots close to nature, and environment must be preserved for them. I'll do what I can to, take this
Thank you,
message
Dr. Vincent.
very
Thank you,
clearly.
thank you,
Thank you very much. And
thank you,
Professor
Dr.
Uday,
Vincent.
thank you very much.
So Akansha, over to you for the closing.
Mr. Rinchin,
Thank you.
Dr.
Pleasure
Rinchin, that was
listening to you, Dr. Inchin.
wait. Yes, thank you, Dr. Rinchin. That was a very, very good talk. And we'd have Ms. Vikram, you would like to close you would like the closing remark?
No, I'm done, Akansha. It was. I don't want to spoil the taste
Oh,
after Dr. Vincent has spoken. Thank you.
thank you. Okay. There were a lot of great points that was raised today, starting from Soham and Prajita talking about how it's essential for children and how the pollutants and contaminants see a diffuse source and how it's all over. It's not limited to just boundaries and states. We're talking about the globe in total. And talking about the Earth Day today, we realize that with the theme that goes on today, that is rights of children, very rightly, Dr. Uday they also highlighted that children need to be are accepted as a landmark and need to be looked at very, very rightly. They should be looked at as, and that's the right approach for the economic development as well. That we need to inculcate children at every aspect, because if we speak about sustainable development, children are the one that we the basics of human rights. I mean, it's even if you look at economic development, humans are should be the most important, and especially children because they are the future and of tomorrow. Participation of children in decision making and capacity development of children, they are also should be a center, because at today as we speak, children's lives are being affected all over. In fact, even if you look at the COVID situation today, we have it's a pandemic, but we realize how the environment and has such a relevance to our health, and even any monetary value cannot, compensate with the health issues that can potentially be here with us. So with this, I'd like to close today's session. And Mr. Vikramji, over to you. How you like to take this forward?
Thank you, Akansha. And again, I'll start with Aprajita, the youngest in the panel on the panel today. So, Aprajita, thank you so much. You were really enlightening. You brought aspects which we were not thinking, and so thank you so much. And Soham, again, very insightful, and your comparative analysis of India and Africa was wonderful. I think it gives a little global flavor to the viewers. And Professor, as always, Uday, your presence and support has always been there. So thank you again. And Dr. Rinchin, you came as a surprise on the Earth Day. You made our day. So thank you again. And I'm sure that few points spoken by children and us may be in your notebook for tomorrow's meeting. So thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vikram.
Thank you.